Hey, we're the Misfit Artists. I'm Flying Ace.
I'm Mecha Ninja Sean! I'm on a spaceship.
Okay, and today we have an animation tutorial inspired by Among Us.
Now, I don't know a whole lot about the game except for it's kind of like Troubled Terrorist Town with fun cartoony deaths, which I'm obviously a fan of.
Hey, don't worry, I got you. It's a game released in 2018 where you and your friends are in space doing various tests, and one of you is an imposter-like ultimate werewolf, but with space murder trying to get away with it. It's quite a popular game since, quarantine's happening.
So today we're going over Morph animation, which is pretty much a whole other thing separate from character and VFX animation. And our inspiration for this Morph is going to be from the game Among Us, which is has a lot of very fun kill animations, and we are using the tummy tongue stabby thingamadoo.
So you like the tongue stab as your favorite?
Yes, definitely. It makes me think of the movie The Thing by John Carpenter, which is an amazing movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely go see it. And there's just not enough tongue stabbing people in the world, I think. I might have issues. Step one.
Nah.
Oh, thank you. Step one, after you have your idea and rough layout sketch, which is going to be your, relatively the same steps no matter what animation you're doing. You're just planning ahead, making sure that things are placed well so that it's framed up nicely. But we're going to go into rough animation next, which is just, going through your motion, making sure that you have the timing down and it reads well before you start aligning and going into crazy details. And if you want to be real body horror animation and really scare the character, it's like a jump scare. You want them to almost know that something scary is about to happen. So we're going to make sure that the guy's pose is a very painful anticipation pose.
He kind of does look weird, like something gone down really bad in his stomach. Just a really yucky feeling in his tum-tum.
Yes. And that's the goal. This is a weird, unrealistic thing that's about to happen, and it's going to move relatively fast. So we want the audience to know, we're basically yelling at them, look at this thing. This is bad. He's acting sus, as the kids say.
As everyone says when they play Among Us.
Exactly. Also in this phase, think about your character's anatomy. There's a lot of different ways that you can morph something in animation, and if you want, we can go over different tutorials on that. Sometimes you liquefy something and have it kind of reform. The transformation you showed me today has that bright flash to almost cover up the actual animation. This, however, is supposed to be almost a realistic, quote-unquote, morph. He's not melting down and reforming. He's not turning into a transformer. There's something inside this character that is tearing his core apart. So to make that really hit home as weird and unsettling, we want to make sure that we have areas of consistency to show that this is intentional. If you keep the head, and the head is something you always kind of keep as your anchor point, if that stays consistent so you know the size of the character. And if the rest of the body is changing while the head stays normal, you see, okay, something's wrong. And to push that even further, we're also going to keep the rib cage area relatively proportional. So all that's really changing is the core. It's actually a really simple morph animation. get into line work, consistency becomes a key feature to focus on. As you can see, I'm working on chunks of the animation at a time. So one thing you can do is copy your head and other parts that don't move or change a whole lot. Again, this is going back to what I was saying before, where we want to show that things are being done intentionally. Sometimes you'll even have whole other layers dedicated to things like arms or follow-through animations, like if you have cloth that will flap. But I'm doing this fast and messy tutorial, so I'm not going to waste your time with 100 layers. But just know that if that's something that you want to try, don't be afraid to load up on your layers. Also, let your line weight and shapes tell parts of the animation. The main silhouette will be a different thickness than a detail like the stripes of the suit or the kneecap areas. You can also help anticipate things with a little shaky line weight and variation instead of the consistency pencil I'm using here. One more thing I recommend right before coloring is to use some kind of post-drawing manipulation on your animation. But if your program allows it, avoid transforming the actual drawings themselves. Or if you can't do that, at least just save a backup. There's no point risking your hard work if you don't have to. Toon Boom uses pegs and Animate uses something called symbols. If you're using Krita, then just save a backup copy, which you should be doing anyway. Just ask any college student. Yeah, and then just go ahead and poke with whatever tools your program has.
So you always get such a kick out of this part. Why is that, and what is it doing?
Very good question. To me, the easy answer is I'm lazy, but there's also a good professional logic to this. In animation, it's an exaggeration. You're not just showing you're not replicating the real world, especially when doing something crazy like this. So one of the things that you always want to exaggerate is your poses, your squash, your stretch. These all help add extra bits of life to it, and it avoids... It's just one of those things that you can see when you watch a freshman animation or a child's flip book, which are always amazing. We're all at different points, but when I look back at my first attempts at animation and my more recent attempts at animation, this is one of the things that I think separates knowledge from just early fiddling, if that makes sense. It helps add extra jolts of life to it, and without doing a whole lot of work, because animation is a very time-intensive hobby or profession. So you want to find whatever you can to get the most results out of the minimum effort sometimes. And it's something that you can do, you can change at any point. And that's another great thing about digital art in general, is just anything you can do that you can easily undo or change later is always great. So, does that answer, does that make sense at all, or?
That makes a lot of sense, honestly.
Okay.
Because I kind of had to experience that through my attempts at animation as well.
Yes. And it's just like anything else. Like, as you start drawing, you kind of start finding shortcuts. Like, you know how to draw. Everyone has like their way to draw an eye. Everyone has their way of representing hair or fur. But it's hard to tell someone how you do that. It's easiest just to find how you do it. And however you find ways to add that little jolt of life is how you do it. But
yeah, very true. You just gotta make it believable, but also be able to have fun with it.
Exactly. Just to sum that whole thing up, remember that animators study life and replicate the real world, but that is only half of it. Arguably, the more important job is exaggerate. It's something I will say in all of our animation tutorials, and you'll hear from any teacher, but you want to show what it makes you feel more than what it really is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, last bit. And then we do the tongue on a different layer like I was talking about earlier, because it is moving kind of offset to the rest of the character. And that's how a lot of things are in the real world. Again, this is where we look at the real world more than we look at how it feels. Like, making it in sync with the character wouldn't add anything to how it feels. So instead, we're going to take a book page from reality and see that, you know, cats or animals, their tails will move slightly offset to them. Your hair moves offset to you. Just things aren't constricted to anything else sometimes. So after we morph the guy, we start having the tongue come out and then let it do its own thing, but we don't want that to interrupt the main body. So separate layer, and then let the tongue finish its animation after the main character's finished its action. That way the audience doesn't get too distracted by everything going on. Huh?
And that is all the time that we have for today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell for more updates on new tutorial videos. I am Ace.
And I'm Mecca. And before we also, if you want other tutorials, please comment what you're preferring of. We were thinking about doing a drawing like creepypasta photos coming up next, so comment what you want to see, and there will be some crazy web series stuff coming soon. I'm Mecca, by the way. Bye.
Bye.